this is my prime example of people that's puppet masters trying to control the narrative.
It now appears if she wants to run for supervisor again, it will have to be as a...
The self-proclaimed super mayor of Dolton, Illinois, has taken a sharp turn as her once dominant political empire begins to disintegrate faster than anybody could have anticipated due to allegations of lavish expenditures for questionable leadership decisions. Even her most ardent followers are shocked by how quickly her career is falling apart. They are holding on tight because this roller coaster is about to. The largest blow to Henyard's political career came during a historic and contentious Democratic caucus in Florin Township. For the first time in decades, the party chose to select its nominees through a caucus instead of a primary election, and the stakes were high. Henyard, the current supervisor of Florin Township and the mayor of Dolton, was hoping to be on the ballot for the 2024 election, but things didn't go as planned. In a striking turn of events, her candidacy was declared invalid, and Florin Township's Democratic Committee is led by State Senator Napoleon Harris, who also represents hundreds of residents in the town. Braved the cold to attend the political showdown at the Homewood Flossmoor Park District Auditorium. Harris, who ran for supervisor, emerged victorious after securing the Democratic nomination, effectively eliminating Henyard from the race. What could only be described as the ultimate political MCD drop occurred when the crowd cheered and gave him a playful farewell kiss instead of applauding him when the results were announced.
Democratic caucus works right here in Thornton Township. You could also say that she flunked out because her name is not appearing.
With an abrupt change of circumstances with a few of her most devoted supporters by her side, Tiffany Henyard stormed out of the auditorium, her voice echoing accusations of corruption and illegality. She specifically accused State Senator Napoleon Harris of conducting an unfair and rigged process, yelling, "You didn't run any of this the right way, legally," and all your fiery. She refused to back down without a fight, even in the face of criticism, and her outburst was a declaration of defiance against her detractors. But the harm was her tenure as the Democratic nominee for Florin Township supervisor effectively ended after the caucus vote, which many described as chaotic but decisive. Her name was officially removed from the Democratic ballot, a public and symbolic blow that highlighted her increasingly shaky hold on power. An 11th-hour decision to pivot and run as a right-wing camp candidate would not only challenge her political identity, but also run the risk of further dividing her already divided base of support. However, for someone like Henyard, who has made her political career out of controversy and tenacity, giving up seemed unthinkable. Her supporters gathered around her, echoing her claims of voter suppression and citing what they said were abrupt and capricious rule changes intended to disqualify her ticket. Despite this, the caucus organizers, led by Harris and his legal team, maintained that the procedure was open and carried out in compliance with Illinois law for Henyard. But this defeat was more than just a political setback. It was a humiliation in public that solidified her reputation as a divisive figure in Illinois politics. As she walked out of the auditorium that day, the lines of her next conflict were already being drawn, and her defiance indicated that, for better or worse, the battle was far from over.
It's the right way. Illegal.
A growing wave of dissatisfaction swept through the community after Tiffany Henyard's humiliating political defeat, echoing loudly across online platforms and among her constituents. For many, this was not just a political setback, but a public unraveling of Henyard's authority and credibility. Critics were quick to jump in, framing her loss as yet another glaring example of her leadership failures and an undeniable sign that she was losing her grip on power. The mood was one of collective frustration as residents who had grown worn out of her contentious tenure publicly expressed their displeasure. One particularly vocal neighbor took to social media to urge others to vote for her immediately. This rallying cry, "Strike out decisively and make the election results indisputable to prevent any chance of manipulation," resonated with the public's growing conviction that Henyard's leadership was not only ineffectual, but also harmful to the community. Calls for change also resonated with a shared belief that power and corruption are inextricably linked, with one online commentator succinctly expressing the sentiment that the more power someone has, the more corrupt they become. This quote captured the growing worries of locals who saw Henyard as the epitome of unbridled power gone wild. For many, her leadership had come to represent the perils of political arrogance and the decline in confidence in government position. Her failure to own up to her mistakes further increased the public's suspicion, since what had earlier been perceived as competence now seemed like arrogance. Her dramatic defeat further highlighted the divide between Henyard and the electorate, who felt more and more alienated and disillusioned by her actions rather than uniting the community or addressing their concerns. Her critics' strong resolve to hold her accountable was strengthened by the story of her alleged corruption and poor management. Henyard appeared to increase her defiance, which only served to deepen the rift. The loss was a public condemnation of her as well as a personal setback. Management approach that many viewed as self-centered and disconnected from her constituents' concerns. Every new criticism and accusation added to the mounting chorus of discontent, presenting an image of a leader cut off by her own conceit and a community at its breaking point. With the public's attitude and resolve to regain their voice in the face of perceived betrayal, this collective discontent marked a turning point. The distance between Henyard and her constituents had never been greater, and her political future appeared more uncertain than ever.
Change at the top in South Suburban Dalton.
Of course, we are talking about Mayor Tiffany.
To truly understand Tiffany Henyard's fall from grace, one must consider her quick ascent and the carefully manicured image she created as a rising political star. Originally hailed as a visionary leader, Henyard positioned herself as an untouchable supermayor, skillfully juggling two powerful positions as mayor of Dalton and supervisor of Thoron Township. This dual authority not only cemented her reputation, but also gave her a strong platform, but her pedestal soon began to fall apart as critics. The most damaging is the dramatic unraveling. According to reports, she charged taxpayers thousands of dollars for indulgent expenses like fancy dinners, lavish vacations, and even personal beauty treatments. Her alleged misuse of public resources revealed a sharp contrast between Henyard's lavish lifestyle and the hardships of the community she was supposed to serve. She allegedly charged around $33,000 to Amazon for inhabitants of Dalton, a community with a typical income of about $24,000, in one day, which was one of the most heinous instances mentioned. These revelations were not only unexpected, but also upsetting. It's repulsive that she's living like a queen while we're having a hard time getting past one, furious a member of the community moaned. As these revelations surfaced, they fostered a growing sense of disillusionment and rage among the residents who felt their trust had been betrayed by a leader they had once trusted. Henyard's financial decisions appeared to represent a gross disconnect from the realities of her constituents, many of whom were struggling financially. Her political demise was precipitated by the issues surrounding her spending habits in Henyard, which exposed what many saw as the hypocrisy and corruption at the core of her leadership. Her once shining image as a champion for the people was replaced. This marked a turning point as her critics became more vocal, and her support base started to erode the very foundation of her political career built on promises of integrity and service. The story of a self-serving politician who put her own comfort ahead of the welfare of her community was told, and the contrast between her lavish spending and the struggles of the average Dalton resident became a symbol of the growing divide between Henyard and the people she claimed to represent. The accusations caused the foundation of her political career to collapse under the weight of her claims, leaving the Henyard legacy tarnished and her future uncertain.
7 minutes. That's all it took for Tiffany Henyard to be out as the Democratic nominee for Thornton Township Supervisor, and she left here visibly upset.
The resident is unfriendly. Since many things started in the township where the people lived, I've been saying that this is similar to Kraft, which was organic, and that Dalton's financial mismanagement just got worse. In 2022, the municipality's general fund balance was a healthy $5 million. However, by mid-2024, a preliminary examination led by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot revealed a shocking shortfall of almost $4 million. During the investigation, Lightfoot, who was designated as a special investigator, described the situation as appalling and mentioned that Henyard's reckless spending is a major contributor to spending. For example, he discovered that police officers were receiving overtime pay that greatly exceeded their annual salaries. For example, one officer received over $100,000 in overtime pay alone on top of their base pay. These results painted a sobering picture of excess and poor management, and her harsh leadership style made matters worse by alienating co-workers and constituents. Tensions escalated during public sessions where Henyard was present, as trustees on the Dalton Village Board publicly criticized her, accusing her of running the town like a dictator. Her famous statement, "You all forget I'm the leader," dismissed the trustees' concerns, giving them the impression that Henyard was out of touch and unwilling to collaborate with others. We'll wait another 5 minutes for it to come. Due to Mayor Tiffany Henyard's decision to postpone the meeting without warning, her problems have gotten much worse. She is currently facing legal action from the Dorton Park District, which accuses her of deliberately refusing crucial permits for the Central Park improvements, which has caused several projects that were funded by large grants to stall. Numerous initiatives intended to improve local public spaces are currently in limbo because of permit delays. She is apparently blaming the Park District for allowing her political rivals to hold meetings on district property, which they believe has put them in her sights. Park District officials have even gone so far as to claim that Hen's actions are driven by political motivations. The ongoing dispute with the Park District highlights concerns that the administration of Henyard's may be more motivated by political grievances and motivations than by the well-being of the citizens she was elected to serve beyond the issuance of licenses. According to additional allegations, the administration of Henyard's has fined the Park District thousands of dollars for small, routine maintenance tasks that were never before questioned, laying mulch on playgrounds. This latest dispute only adds to the growing body of allegations against Henyard's, which, taken together, present a concerning image of a leadership style that is more concerned with personal grievances than with meeting the needs of the community. And the punishment for installing new equipment suddenly seems to have no clear reason. His critics have called these actions rather than addressing any legitimate concerns. According to Penny and Vindictive, they are part of a broader trend that focuses on the Park District for political purposes. Every year, we replace the park's mulch to ensure that the kids are playing on a safe and healthy surface. This is a routine maintenance task that we have always completed without any problems. But now we are being punished for it because of political games, said Clu Jones, president of the Dorton Park District. Jones's comments are representative of a larger view among Park District personnel who believe that needless and politically motivated involvement is hindering their ability to serve the community. This situation has caused locals to become concerned. Many of them are already irritated by the public and have expressed discontent with how these disputes are affecting their quality of life because they see important projects held up and basic services compromised with a focus on political disputes rather than community needs. Perhaps you're questioning whether Henyard's leadership is truly helpful to the people she represents or if it's driven more by personal ambitions and power conflicts. The Democratic candidate for Thoron Township Supervisor, Tiffany Henyard, was out in just 7 minutes, and her departure made it obvious that the financial stakes in this drawn out. There are more people fighting, and the consequences of not getting the necessary licenses on time could be severe. As a $40,000 grant to repair Blackstone Park approaches its expiration date, taxpayers may have to reimburse previously spent funds. Wasted opportunities are now a factor in this situation. Therefore, politics is not the only problem. According to Stephanie Wheatman, the Park District's executive director, if these brands expire, our residents will lose out on better parks and safe spaces for their families. This highlights the impact of Hen's confrontational and controlling leadership style, which has caused divisions within the community. Meanwhile, her inner circle has begun to splinter, with longtime allies pulling away in rumors of staff resignations and, Inner conflict. Although no charges have been brought against Henyard directly, the FBI's investigation into his administration may have been the most damaging blow to the public's voice. Several people have reportedly spoken to agents about potential malfeasance, and the investigation's very existence has negatively impacted her leadership. As pressure mounts, Henyard's opponents are capitalizing on the recent indictment of one of her close IST allies, a former deputy police officer. Despite this, her political leading authority on claims of bankruptcy fraud, she attacks her critics in a recent Facebook video, accusing them of starting a smear campaign. "Why am I getting all this attention?" she asks in an aggressive and hostile manner. "What are they trying to distract you from?" She also makes reference to bringing a lawsuit against those she believes have wronged her, though it's unclear if she has any supporting evidence. Her contempt that you all showed that I am is ongoing. The stakes in Feud's finances are growing, and delays in acquiring the necessary permits might have major consequences. Stephanie Wetman, the Park District's executive director, stated that a $40,000 grant to repair Blackstone Park is set to expire, putting taxpayers at risk of having to reimburse money that has already been spent. This isn't just about politics anymore. It's about opportunities. If these brands expire, our folks will miss out on nicer parks and family-friendly locations. Her political foundation is becoming irrefutable, and her future in office appears increasingly uncertain. Even her attempts to repair the damage, such as planning community events and appearing in the media, have backfired, with critics calling them desperate and insincere, further eroding her support. The statement highlights how Henyard's confrontational and controlling leadership style has exacerbated divisions in the community, while her inner circle has begun to splinter, with longtime allies pulling away in rumors of staff resignations and internal strife.